Hi, David Cristello here from Jetpack Workflow. Today I want to spend a few minutes walking through our 1041 process sheet. Now, if you are watching this anywhere but the blog, you can always go to jetpackworkflow.com/blog for more articles, more interviews, and of course to get more information on process sheets and workflow diagrams. With that in mind, let's spend a few minutes and talk about the structure of our proposed 1041 process sheet. We typically like to set up our process sheet in three different buckets. We call it the foundation, part two is the process and fulfillment, and then the final bucket, we look at the metrics, and so we can optimize for the future. So let's look at the first bucket, the foundation. There's some really important things to keep in mind in terms of setting up your process sheet foundation. The first thing would be looking at the budgeted hours. This is going to be great because it's going to help us with scheduling now, and of course when we schedule it for the future. So we certainly want to include a budgeted hours for the entire job. We also want to list out all the team members that are associated with this specific process sheet. We also highly recommend tracking turnaround time. So you can see here we have our date in and we have our target date out. We even have a field for actual date out that ties in with our metrics tracking. But at the very least, you definitely want to track turnaround time. We've interviewed top practitioners from around the world, and one of the key metrics that they bring up time and time again is tracking turnaround time so you can really optimize your internal effectiveness and your internal efficiencies. So those are some key indicators inside of the foundation. Now let's take a look at process and fulfillment. Some important things to keep in mind would be to have the default statuses set up. So when you create your process sheet across your firm, make sure that there are standard statuses and status updates that the team could add to this, as well as additional milestones or labels that you might want to track. You can see here that we included a field for urgency. You might want to include or have some kind of system in case the client work or the client delivery is delayed. If you're still waiting on client information, make sure there's a status or a label or a note that you can attach to this process sheet, and your team certainly knows how to add that to the process sheet. The next set would be the tasks associated with this specific job. One thing that we do recommend is actually putting the allocated time on a task level as well. If you have a team where team member A is going to be working on the first set of tasks and pass it along to team member B, and they're going to work on a set of tasks and finally pass it along to team member C, you definitely want to add allocated time per tasks, and you want to measure that against actual. And again, this is all about improving your internal efficiency, and as you do that, you increase the profitability of a job and ultimately the profitability of your firm. Finally, we're going to look at our personal favorite part of the process sheet, which would be the metric tracking. So here, this is when the job is closed out, the payment has come in, all the hours are recorded, this is archived, and now we can look at the budgeted hours versus actual hours. And again, depending on your team and your workflow, maybe you look at this on a task level or a team member level, or maybe you look at it at an entire job level. But again, you want to compare the budgeted versus actual hours. And again, like I mentioned earlier with turnaround time, you want to see the target turn, so maybe at 15 days, maybe the actual turn took 20 days, or maybe it took 10 days, but you need to know the difference between the two, and so you can, again, set it up for the future in a better way. Finally, we're going to look at the profit margin. We're going to look at the internal cost. So we're going to go back to those hours. We're going to understand the cost internally to the firm. We're going to look at your target profit margin, and we're going to see if we're actually hitting this on an ongoing basis. Now, what's nice about this section, it's going to give you visibility on whether or not maybe this client is profitable, the team members associated with this are completing it in the appropriate amount of time, or perhaps this category of work is profitable, or maybe it isn't and you need to increase the price. So long term, this bottom section, it doesn't take up a lot of space, but it's going to give you the most visibility, and it's going to give you the strategic insight into how to set up your firm for the future. So this is a brief overview of the process sheet. Again, if you want to learn more, you can always go to jetpackworkflow.com/blog. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to comment below or share it with a colleague as well. Thank you.